The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and assalamu alaikum everyone. First of all, please do confirm me that all of you can hear me and my voice is clear to all of you. Okay, that's great. And you can see the screen in front of you, which is the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, with all that confirmation, hello and assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Kashif Kamran and I welcome you all to the Advanced Audit and Assurance Practice to Pass webinar for March 2021 exams being organized by ACCA Pakistan. Today is the day 5 and the final day of this webinar. Now, I hope over the last 4 days, this webinar must have helped you in terms of your preparation towards the March 2021 exams. And today is the final 3 hours of this webinar, which will provide you an extra benefit in terms of preparing effectively for the March 2021 exams. Let's start with the proceeding of the final day, the 5th day, and the agenda of the 5th and the final day of this particular webinar is to focus on other assignments. We were focusing on other assignments yesterday, even on day 4. We discussed due diligence and forensic yesterday, and I will be taking on another other assignment today, which is the audit of performance information. And alongside that, I would also be discussing the importance of the knowledge areas in the AAA paper, which mostly students tend to ignore when they're preparing for exams. So we have two set of agenda today. One is to look at the audit of performance information, which is another assignment, and then to look at the importance of the knowledge areas. So let's start on with the final 3 hours of the day 5 of this webinar. Okay, now that's the agenda for day 5 on your screen, which is other assignments and the knowledge areas. I will first emphasize on the other assignments up to the break, and after the break, I'll start on with the emphasis on the knowledge area. And towards the last 15 minutes of the webinar, I would particularly discuss with you the time management techniques, which is a very, very difficult parameter for students because majority of the students who give the AAA paper tends to come out of the exam halls or centers with an incomplete paper, which is a big problem. So let's see if we can address that to a certain extent today. Okay, now when I look at the day 5, there are two recommendable webinars, which I did in September 19 and which I did in June 19, which you should watch with the day 5 of the March 2021 webinar. Particularly, the June 19 webinar is where I did the audit of performance information, which is the topic for today. Audit of performance information. So alongside the information you got today on this topic, you can also go and watch the June 19 webinar for a better understanding of the same topic, because I will not be repeating the question which I did in June 19. I will be doing another question. So when you do the June 19 webinar, you get hold of another question on the same topic. So that will give you diversity of practice. The agenda for day 5. Articles, plenty of them, because we're not just focusing on the other assignment, we are also focusing on the importance of the knowledge area in the AAA paper. So plenty of articles recommended, and they are in the handout section of the webinar. You can download them. Performance information in the public sector is the first article that relates to the topic we are starting, audit of performance information. Then there are some knowledge articles which are important, auditor liability, professional skepticism, and using the work of internal auditors. These are more important knowledge areas which you should focus on alongside the others. I'll be focusing on the examiner criticism as I have been in the last 4 days. The practice questions which I will be doing today includes the June 17 question number 3B. That is for the performance information, the main topic. Then I'll be doing the December 18 paper on money laundering. And then I will be doing the June 16 paper on the knowledge area. So plenty of knowledge discussion alongside the question 3B from the June 17 exam. Your home assignments are given in the handout section. You have to do the December 15 paper as a home assignment. The question has already been put in the handout section, and you have to do the June 15 as a home assignment. The question has already been shared within the handout section. And plus, you need to watch the previous webinars, which I recommended you, and you have to read plenty of articles. So I believe over the next 48 hours, you will be busy completing the agenda of the day 5. Okay, so that's the agenda. I hope you're all clear on the agenda in front of your screen, and that's to be spread out over the next 3 hours of the webinar today. So let's start the proceeding first with audit of performance information. Now I'm taking on my Word file as I do every day. I hope you can see the Word file in front of your screen, and this is the Word file for the 5th and the final day. Let's see what we have in store. So the objective today is other assignments and knowledge areas. Let's first start with the other assignment. The other assignment, which I will be discussing today, is basically known as Audit of Performance Information. That's the title, right? Now I'll give you a brief summary of what exactly is audit of performance information, as I did give you about forensic and due diligence yesterday. I hope you remember that. In the same order, I'll give you a brief summary of audit of performance information, and then I'll take you to the past papers so that I can guide you about the marking scheme. Okay, moving on. First of all, when you're preparing yourself for this topic, audit of performance information, how to prepare this topic. Now, when you're preparing yourself for this topic, the first thing you need to do is obviously you have to clarify your concepts on this topic. And to clarify the concept, you have a good article, so no need of a book reading. You will directly read the examiner article. And you will read the examiner article, which is Performance Information in Public Sector. I'll show you the article once I start discussing it. So that's the title of the article, right? Performance information in the public sector. This is plenty. After this article, no need to go into the books, right? This is sufficient article which will exactly provide you the right exam rigor you need to have for audit of performance information. Is that clear? So you build up the concepts from the article, and I'll give you a brief summary shortly. Now, after you build your concepts, it's time to do practice, so that you know exactly that you can apply the knowledge you gathered from reading the examiner article. Now, when you look at the practice and you look at the recent 6 papers, which I've been recommending over the last 4 days, recent 6 exam papers from September 18 to December 20. And you will be amazed that in these recent 6 papers, there are no questions from this topic. So if you start your practice from September 18 up to December 20, you will find not a single question on audit of performance information. That means you have to go prior to September 18. Now, when you go prior to September 18, there are 3 questions on this subject matter. 3 questions prior to September 18, which you should practice. And again, I'll be sharing them with you because these are old questions. Now, on the SCCA website, you only have past papers from December 17. So if I recommend you to do any past paper prior to December 17, I will be sharing that on the WhatsApp group, as I shared some of the old past papers even yesterday on the WhatsApp group. I hope you acknowledge that. So 3 questions, right? Prior to September 18, which is on this topic. The most recent one is the one I will be doing today, June 17, question number 3B. This will be in the webinar today. Then followed by that is a December 15, question number 2A, which I solved in my June 19 webinar, which I have recommended you to watch. And then there is another question, December 14, question number 3B, which you have to do on your own as your assignment. I hope you're clear with that. So June 17 question 3B I'll do today. The December 15 question 2A was solved in my June 19 webinar, and December 14 question 3B you will do as your own assignment after you concentrate today and after you watch the June 19 webinar. So there are only 3 questions, out of which 2 will be done by the tutor and one will be done by you. I hope you're clear on the mindset. So from September 18 to December 20, no question on this topic, right? So you have to take hold of the previous paper. Now that means the last time this topic was examined was when? In June 17. Since then, it has not been examined. It is a syllabus area, and you have an examiner article on this. So you cannot underestimate this area. And I believe that in somewhere in the 2021 exams, you will see this topic coming back to paper. It might be the March exams, it might be the June exams, it might be the September exams. The potential of this topic hitting back in 2021 is very, very strong. So please don't take this topic lightly, even though you have old papers to do here. Now, the good thing with other assignments, just like forensic and just like due diligence, there is a lot of repetition when the examiner gives you a question on other assignments. So what you need to think about, there is a lot of repetition, and we have always seen in the case of the past paper that whenever the examiner gives you a question on other assignment, it is some sort of a replica. It is some sort of a replica from the prior sittings, right? So what you need to do is that if you solve the 3 questions which are for this topic, you might be lucky enough to find some sort of a replica of that if a question comes in the March 21 exam on auditor performance information. So because there is a lot of repetition, so if you solve all 3 questions above, you will be safe in exam. You will be safe in exam, right? Is that clear to everyone? So I'll be doing the June 17 today, right? And through that, I will be guiding you about this topic, auditor performance information, so that it is fresh in your mindset. Okay, so concepts and practice. And after practice, obviously, you have to do your self-appraisal, which is a concept which I start building upon from day one. I hope you have now reinforced this principle of self-appraisal, because I've been consistently discussing this from day one now to the final day. A self-appraisal of your answer. And the best way to do a self-appraisal of your answer is marking schemes and the examiner report. And I hope if any one of you has started to follow this, this is a wonderful approach which really makes you closer to success in the AAA paper. So this is how you should go down preparing this topic. Read, practice, and a self-appraisal. So I think this is the 3-step model, which is to be applicable on each day of the webinar so far. Okay, now out of that, let's start having a brief overview of what exactly is audit of performance information, and then looking into the past papers. Now, when you look at this topic, audit of performance information, where the examiner has written an article, first of all, you should have a clear idea about some aspects of this other assignment, audit of performance information. What is this other assignment? What is done in this? What is the assurance level? What is the type of report? Just like we were discussing the due diligence and forensic yesterday. Let's open the topic. Okay, if I can share with you the article on this topic, performance information in public sector. I hope you can see that in front of your screen now. Performance information in public sector. A small article just spreading over 5 pages. You scroll down and the examiner gives you the introduction, that how important it is from the syllabus point of view, so you can read that on your own. Then the examiner gives you the backgrounds. I'm not interested in the background. I just want to tell you what exactly this topic is. So if you want to, you will always be reading the full articles, right? Now, when you go from the background down, before I come to the other pages of this article, there is a paragraph which exactly tells you what is the topic, audit of performance information. Okay, can you see on page number 3, there is a heading, audit of performance information. Can all of you see that? Page 3, audit of performance information. This is right here that the examiner tells you what is audit of performance information. The para 1, which I have highlighted in green, is the most worthy paragraph. And the examiner tells you in this paragraph that what is basically an audit of performance information, right? So if I can just pick that definition out, Okay, right from here to here. If I can just pick these 3 lines and I can put this on my Word file, so we can do an analysis of exactly what is an audit of performance information. So from which page number did I took this? I took this from the page number 3 of the article. So I'll just take the important extracts, right? So this is from the page 3. Now see what the examiner is telling us. Examiner is telling us candidates are reminded that the audit of performance information, which is the topic, audit of performance information is concerned with the audit of reported performance, is concerned with the audit of the reported performance against the predetermined objective. So what are you doing in the audit of performance information? You are basically doing an audit. Audit means to verify something. Audit means to review something, right? So whether you do the audit of the financial statement or you do the audit of the performance information. I hope you are all literally clear with the word audit. Audit means to examine something, audit means to review something, or audit means to verify something. So audit of performance information is concerned with the audit of the reported performance against the predetermined objective. So what is your scope? Your scope is that you have to do the audit of reported performance versus predetermined objectives. Predetermined objectives, right? Now the predetermined objectives are basically known as key performing indicators. Key performing indicators. I hope you've heard this word, key performing indicators, right? KPIs. KPI is a topic which is scattered across ACCA qualification, and in the 14 papers of ACCA qualification, you do find a scattered overview of key performing indicators as a topic across many papers. Okay, moving on. So the scope is to audit the reported performance versus the predetermined objective. Now, just to give you an example, for example, now the reported performance is other than the financial performance, right? It can be financial performance. It can be a non-financial performance. For example, it could be anything in the exam paper, but the reported performance will be given in the case study, right? The reported performance will be given in the case study because the management will be reporting it to the auditor, and the auditor needs to verify whether the reported performance is right or wrong. I hope you're clear on that. So the reported performance will always be in the case study, whatever that is. Now, for example, the management has a predetermined objective. The management has a predetermined objective to provide charity to organizations, So that's their objective, right? That is their corporate social responsibility, to provide charity to the organization. Now, what have they done? In 2020, the management has given $150,000 as donations to charitable organizations. The management has given donations of $150,000 to charitable organizations, full stop. So what is the management objective? The management objective is to provide charity, right? And against the objective, have they given donation during the year? So have they given donations during the year? Yes. How much donation have they given during the year? $150,000. So management has given $150,000 as donation. So it is the audit of the reported performance. So what is the reported performance? The reported performance is a $150,000 donation. Let's put that in yellow. And what is the predetermined objective? The predetermined objective, let's put that in blue, is to provide charity to the organization. So they had an objective, and against the objective, the performance is $150,000 as donation. Is that clear to everyone? So every time a management has an objective, and against the objective, the management has a reported performance. Is that correct, everyone? Waiting for your answers, everyone. I hope you're all there in the live webinar. Okay, so can you find the two color schemes? The blue is the objective and the yellow is the reported performance, right? Now, what is the auditor doing here? If the management is setting the objective and is management is telling the performance, then what is the role of the auditor? The auditor role is after. See this. The auditor role here is to usually report on the credibility, usefulness, and accuracy of the reported performance. So what is the role of the auditor? Let's put that in a different color, in a green color. The auditor role. What is the auditor role? The auditor role is to report on the credibility, number one, on the usefulness, number two, and on the accuracy, number three, of the reported performance. So what is the auditor trying to tell to the users? The auditor is trying to tell the users the auditor role is to report on three things. Number one, on the credibility, on the usefulness, and on the accuracy of the reported performance information. So you are performing an audit, right? So when you're performing an audit, the basic role of audit is to ensure that the information given is credible, true. So the donation information, $150,000, is that true? The auditor needs to check that. Is it useful to the users of the financial statement? We know lots of companies do the corporate social responsibility, and lots of companies publish corporate social responsibility as part of their annual report because the users take interest into it. And is it accurate? Is $150,000 accurate? So you need to verify that. You need to perform procedures on that. So the auditor role is to report on the credibility, is to report on the usefulness, is to report on the accuracy of the reported performance, which is $150,000 donation. How would you do that? Auditor will perform audit procedures because that's the only thing the auditor can do. Auditor will perform audit procedures to gather sufficient, appropriate audit evidence that the reported performance is credible. Reported performance is credible, full stop. So is that the mechanism the auditor use even in the audit of the financial statement? That the auditor performs procedures to gather sufficient appropriate audit evidence that the information given in the financial statement is true and fair? And that's exactly the same thing the auditor is doing in audit of a performance information. So the nature of the information is different, right? As compared to the nature of information in the audit of the financial statement. Is that clear to everyone? So the scope is quite overlapping, right? The scope is quite overlapping to the audit of the financial statement, right? So the auditor will perform procedures to verify the credibility that whether $150,000 is credible or not. Clear? Now look at the last thing. Now, once you know what is an audit of performance information, and once you know what the management do, I need some quick answers from your side. What is the role of the management in performance information? Number one, the management sets the objective. Is that right? The management sets the objective. Is that right? Okay. And the management reports the performance information. Is that right? The management reports the performance information. Is that right? Okay, that's good. So the management sets the objective, the management reports the performance information, and the role of the auditor is to check the performance information, whether the performance information is right or wrong. Is that clear, everyone? Okay, great. Okay, now move on. The next page of the article, which is important for you for exam paper. Okay, back to the article. Okay, can you see on the page number 4 of the article in front of you that the examiner has given the audit procedures? Can you see here the examiner has given us the audit procedures may include, right? right? So can you see the examiner has given a long list of procedures to us? What can be performed to verify the credibility of the performance information? Can that be helpful to you in exam paper, right? Okay, let me put these to the Word file. We'll do a quick discussion of these procedures and we start attempting the past paper. So the examiner is saying, what can be the audit procedures? What can be the audit procedures? The audit procedures include, so I'm just taking the crux of the article, which will be really beneficial for all of you. Summary. So these are the audit procedures, right? So examiner is saying these are the audit procedures which can be performed by the auditor to verify the credibility, to verify the usefulness and accuracy of the financial information. Okay, let's go one by one. The first procedure, test of controls. The auditor can perform test of controls. Number one, the auditor can perform the test of controls to ensure that the system used to generate performance informations are good. Will that increase auditors' confidence on the credibility of the information if the systems which generate performance information are robust, are credible? So should auditor ensure that the systems which generate the performance information are good, the internal controls around performance informations are good? Will that enhance the credibility? So test of controls are performed on the systems. Are the system good or not? Next, performing analytical review to evaluate trends and gauge the consistency of the information. Perform analytical review. We know analytical review is important, and analytical review can help us to understand, analytical procedure can help us understand the trends in the information. How much donation the company has given in the last year 2019, or how much donation has the company given in the previous year 2018? What has been the trend of giving donations? Normally the company gives donation of like $100,000, or company used to give a very high donation, but this year the company has given a very low donation. So can we gauge the trends through analytical review by finding trends of the last years? Is that clear to everyone? Right? Okay, good. So analytical procedures can be used in context. Next, discussion with management. Now we know discussion is a very common procedure. You can use it anywhere. You are discussing with management or any relevant individual responsible for the reporting process. So there might be lots of things which you need to discuss with management, right? Discussion with management. You need to discuss with management any problems you had in performance information. So discussion itself is a procedure. I hope my voice is clear to all of you, right? You can hear me. Okay, that's great. Review the minutes of the meeting. You can review the minutes of the meeting where the approval must have been given. So if the management is giving a donation of like $150,000, obviously the board must have approved it. So any significant thing is approved by the board, right? Not the minor things, not the petty things, but any major thing, any important thing is approved by the board. So review the minutes. You can have a confirmation of the performance information to a source document. You can have confirmation of the performance information to a source document. So can you confirm the source document of the performance information? Now, in the case of a donation, what is the source document? The bank statement or the donation slip, right? So discussion can be done for anything, right? That depends upon the case study. That depends upon, is there any issue? If there is any issue, you will discuss with management anything pertaining to the issue. Or if there is any missing information, you will discuss management about the missing information. Source document. So do you need to verify the source document for donation? If the management says they have given a donation of $150,000, so the source document of a donation might be a bank statement, might be a cash book, or might be the slips, the donation slips you get from a charitable organization. And lastly, you can do recalculations if that is possible. So if you find a performance information in exam paper which can be recalculated, you can recalculate it, right? If you find a performance information in the exam paper of which there is a source document, verify the source document. If you think there is a performance information for which there will be a minutes of the meeting, then review the minutes. If you think there is a performance information on which I need to discuss with management something, then discuss with management. If you think there is a performance information of which I need to see the previous trends, then do the analytical procedure. If you think there is a performance information on which I need to assure the systems in place, then do the test of controls. So how many procedures are there? These are more or less the same procedures you use in the overall paper. These are common procedures, right? Which needs to be tailored to the context of the case study. So you can apply the test of controls, right? You can apply the analytical procedures, you can apply the discussions, you can review the minutes, you can do the source document, and you can do the recalculation, right? So if you can just make a summary, we have lots of procedures. T, the test of control, A, the analytical procedure, D, the discussion, M, the minutes of the meeting, S, the source document, and R, the recalculation. So in summary, what you can do, in summary, you can do lots of procedures, and these procedures can also be applied elsewhere, right? Not just this topic, right? They can be applied cleverly to the rest of the areas as well. So you have T as a test, just make a summary quickly. A as an analytical procedure, D as a discussion, M as the minutes of the meeting, S as the source document, and R as the recalculation. So this is like a mnemonic. Now, it's better to apply it. It's better to apply it rather than just to learn the mnemonic. But I hope this summary will help you develop a mindset of procedures, not just for this topic, but generally when a term procedure is asked for in exam paper. So examiner has given you a range of procedures, and I'll be applying them to the June 17 paper, which I'll start shortly. Is that clear? Okay, now the few of the important things from the article. What is audit of performance information? Is everyone clear? What is the management responsibility and what is the auditor responsibility? Is everyone clear? Now, what procedures can you perform on the performance information? Is that clear? Now let's find the summary, conclusion. Okay, reporting on performance information. What is the assurance level of the assignment? Just like forensic yesterday, there was no assurance. Due diligence, moderate assurance. Let's see what is the level of assurance for audit of performance information. Can you see this paragraph in front of your screen, reporting on performance information, which is crucial on the page number 4? Everyone? Okay, I'm reading from here, the first paragraph on page number 4, reporting. Just let me copy this down. This is an important information. I cannot just ignore it. So reporting comes on the page number 4 of the article. And in that, the examiner is telling us something very important. Let's copy that and then discuss it. Okay, the first thing the examiner is telling us under reporting of the performance information is there is no specific format or wording that is prescribed by the regulation for reporting on the public sector performance information, though in some jurisdiction, the national regulator may issue a country-specific requirement. So there is no specific format or wording of the report, right? Just like forensic yesterday, even forensic report does not have the ideal structure and format. So there is no format and wording. So should you have a consultation with management, what sort of a format they need or what sort of a wording they need? So should you consult management in this particular engagement to find a clarity on the format and wording? So there is no specific format or wording. Number 2, you go back to the article and you get to the next paragraph, which is the most important paragraph, telling you about the assurance level. You copy this paragraph and you bring it back to the Word file. And this paragraph sets the tone about the assurance level. Right. Performance information is done not just in the public sector, it's also done in the private sector. Examiner has given that with clarity on the page number 1 and 2, which we skipped. And even when you look at the past papers, in the past papers, you have got case studies, not just on public, but you've also got it on the private sector. So it is applicable to both, right, in the same order. Just 1 minute, right? Okay, last paragraph. Generally, the auditor will provide a conclusion on whether the company has achieved its objective as shown by the reported performance and concludes on the information itself. So auditor will provide a conclusion, right, that the reported performance has achieved the objectives or not, right? So whether the company has achieved the objectives or they have not achieved the objectives by looking at the performance information, the auditor will provide a conclusion. This conclusion may be in a form, maybe in a form of a reasonable assurance, as you do in the audit. That is an opinion. That is an opinion. Or maybe in the form of a negative assurance. That is a moderate assurance, right? So that means uh, in an audit of performance information, your conclusion can be reasonable and your conclusion can be moderate. Now, when it is confusing, then you have to consult the management. You need to ask the management what assurance you need. So if a question comes to exam, matters to consider when your audit firm is invited to accept an audit of performance information. So will you consider a matter that you should discuss with management the level of assurance before you accept the invitation to audit the performance information? Will that be important? Right? So that means the auditor will agree the type of conclusion with the management. The auditor will agree the type of conclusion. So that's important. So is there any defined level of conclusion for audit of performance information? Is there any defined level of conclusion, everyone, for the audit of performance information? No. So either it could be moderate or it could be reasonable. So when who then how to reach a conclusion? How to reach a conclusion? Should you have a meeting with the management? Should you discuss with management what do they expect? And according to that, will you decide your fees level? And according to that, will you decide your scope level? So is that an important matter to consider before you are invited to a tender, that you agree with the management, the type of conclusion, because that will really help you formulate your scope, your resources, and your fees level, right? Is that clear to all of you? So the summary. In the summary, number one, no reporting format. No reporting format. Number two, the level of assurance vary. So the auditor and the management needs to agree the assurance level. Is that right? The management and the auditor needs to agree the assurance level because the level of assurance varies. So that's the summary of the page number 4 where we got reporting. I hope you're all clear on that, right? And I hope that's too childish to ask at this level. What's the difference between a moderate and a reasonable assurance, as one of the students is asking? You're coming from the F8 paper to the P7 paper, and you're asking at a P7 level, what is the difference between a moderate and a reasonable assurance? That's something which is taught in the very first class of the F8 paper, right? So you should go back the books, open the books, go to the Google, search on the Google, what's the difference between a moderate assurance and a reasonable assurance? Right? So we came across a topic yesterday, just to open your mindset. Yesterday in the webinar, if you watched that live, we came across a topic which is matters to consider. Matters to consider when a audit firm is invited to when the audit firm is invited to perform audit of performance information. For example, a question like such comes to exam paper, right? Now, you know the answer to this. We discussed that yesterday. Matters to consider when an audit firm is invited to a tender. Now, apart from considering the scope, as a matter to consider when invited to a tender for performance information: your fees level, your deadlines. You would also consider the assurance level. Do you believe matters to consider in the case of audit of performance information? The assurance level is a very important matter because there is no defined assurance level. If the assurance level is defined, it will not be a matter to consider, right? But because the assurance level is not defined, it is a matter to consider. And do you believe with the change in the assurance level, your fee level will also change? With the change in the assurance level, your scope will also change. With the change in the assurance level, your resources will also change. The resources required to perform this engagement, right? So try to understand the topic in a holistic manner. And the limitation of the webinar, we have 3 hours and everything has to be put in order. The tutor can just give you a direction. I hope the page number 3, the page number 4 is putting you in the right direction for the topic audit of performance information. You know the assurance level, you know the procedures, you know exactly what is the management responsibility, and you exactly know what is the auditor responsibility when it comes to audit of performance information, right? So will you be reading the article in full? And will you be watching my June 19 webinar? Because in the June 19 webinar, I have covered the page number 1 and 2 of the article. So if you watch my previous webinar, you will also get the knowledge of the page 1 and page 2, right? Is that clear to everyone? Right? Is my voice clear to all of you? Okay, that's great. Okay, the summary. And we're exiting, right? The summary of the whole discussion we had. Number 1, you should know the management responsibility for performance information. Who will give me quick answers? What is management responsibility for performance information? How many? What they do? Management responsibility for performance information. What they do exactly? They set objectives and they report performance. Is that right? See, I'm not giving papers, right, in March. You are giving papers in March. You need to be quick. So the management sets the objective, they report the performance, right? Good. Next, what is the auditor responsibility in case of the performance information? For performance information, the auditor responsibility is to ensure the credibility, is to ensure the usefulness and the accuracy of the reported performance information, right? And then the auditor responsibility is to report, right? Now, when you look at the report, there is no format of the report. The assurance level vary. That's all we got right. So I hope that opens your mindset, right? Okay, so you'll spend good enough time in the context of 3 hours. If I make my pie chart, so I've given a reasonable time to the introduction of audit of performance information. Let's move on to the start of the June 17 paper, and then you can watch my June 19 webinar, which will be a good one for you. Please watch the June 19 webinar, which I have recommended during the session today, so you can get more knowledge on the same subject matter. Okay, let's start with the June 17 paper, question number 3B. So to exactly see what examiner asked for in a question on performance information, right? Now, when you look at the June 17 paper, right, question number 3B, which we are doing in the webinar, or you look at any of the old papers like the December 14 paper or the December 15 paper where this topic has come, what is the scope of the exam requirement? The scope of the exam requirement, if you look at all the 3 papers, the scope of exam question on performance information. I've shared the hyperlink, Bilal Tahir, in my presentation. So you just click on the hyperlink and you reach the June 19 webinar, the particular day. Scope of the exam question on performance information, right? Whether you look at the December 14 paper, or you look at the December 15 paper, or you look at the June 17, which we are solving. The scope moves around procedures. Procedure is the most scoring part in a question on performance information. And I think 50 to 60% of the total marks in a question on performance information are allocated to procedures. And we'll just see that, right? And the remaining 40% marks, ideally, are allocated in every exam setting where performance information have been tested, are allocated to the knowledge given in the examiner article. Knowledge given in examiner article. So examiner asks you something directly from the article in all the previous 3 exam settings. So 40% marks are allocated to the knowledge given in the examiner article. So please ensure that you read it. But 60% marks is case oriented, where you need to apply procedures. Is that clear with the scope of a question on performance information? And that's exactly what you will see in the June 17 question number 3B. Okay, let's start the drilling. The drilling of the June 17 question number 3B. Okay, I'm putting in front of you the June 17 question number 3B. Okay, June 17 question number 3B. Okay, can you see the June 17 question number 3 in front of your screen, everyone? Okay, we are looking at not 3A, we are looking at 3B. So you go to the 3B, which is this, and you look at a small case study, because every time performance information has come, it has only come for 10 marks. So that means it's not a full question like 25 marks or 20 marks. It's just a small question of 10 marks. Okay, you look at the requirement. What is the examiner asking for in this 10 marks requirement? I just copy this and we take it to the Word file and exactly see what is the requirement asking for. You bring the requirements to a Word file because the first thing which I believe you need to do, and I've been guiding you as a tutor every day, is to read the requirements carefully, and they really help. Explain the difference. So the very first thing the examiner is asking is to tell the difference between performance audit and the audit of performance information. Now, this is the knowledge in the article. In the article, the examiner has explained the difference between the two terminologies. And if you don't read the article, what if a same question comes in the March 21 paper and you don't know what's the difference between performance audit and an audit of performance information? You all know what is an audit of performance information. Have I guided you on what is an audit of performance information? The audit of performance information is where you audit the reported performance against the predetermined objective. I hope you know the definition of audit of performance information. We just covered that in the session. Explain the difference. So where is this difference coming from, everyone? This difference is coming from the article. So you need to read the article. I'll just show you this. It's on the page number 3 of the article. Okay, then you come to the next one. Recommend procedures. Recommend procedures to be used in auditing the performance information of the Moosewood Hospital. So you need to audit the performance information and you need to apply procedures on auditing performance information. How many marks? 7. 70% marks. The total question is how many marks? The total question is worth 10 marks. So how many marks have been allocated to procedure? 70% of the total marks. And knowledge, 30% of the marks have been allocated to the knowledge. I hope you find relevance. And you look at the December 14 paper. I think in December 14 paper, 40% was the knowledge and 60% was the procedure. And you look at the December 15 paper, which I did in the June 19 webinar, 50% was knowledge and 50% was procedure. So that's how the case have been for this topic. Okay, you know some sort of procedures, right? TADMSR, but that's not how we're writing them, right? We need to relate the procedures with a case study, but at least the TADMSR would help you somewhere. Now, what's the difference between performance audit and an audit of performance information? I hope I guided you on that. Let's find the clue. You all know what is an audit of performance information. Did I guided you on that in the last 15 minutes? The audit of performance information is where the auditor review the performance information reported by management against what? Who is mentally present? Auditor performance information is where the auditor reviews the performance information reported by management against what? Against, very good answers, against predetermined objectives. So is that what we discussed in the last 15 to 20 minutes? That's the auditor performance information. Whereas, comma, performance audit. Let's see what is a performance audit. Whereas performance audit, let's find the difference. Go to the article, page number 3. And on the page number 3, the examiner will tell you the difference. Okay. Examiner is writing on page number 3, the same paragraph we read. It is worth reiterating the difference between audit of performance information and performance audit, as both are likely to be occur in public sector. So examiner is saying it is important to know the difference between audit of performance information and performance auditing, as both are likely to occur in public sector. So examiner is telling us that very carefully. So let's see what's the difference the examiner wants us to focus on. But is the examiner telling in the very first line that it's very important to know the difference on the page number 3 of the article, everyone? Are you finding the first line clear? So it is worth reiterating the difference between the audit of performance information and performance auditing, as both are likely to occur in the public sector. Now you all know what is audit of performance information, right? So let's find what is exactly performance auditing so that you know the difference. Then you read the next paragraph. In the next paragraph, the examiner says, candidates are reminded that audit of performance information is concerned with the audit of the reported performance against the predetermined objective. The auditor role is to report on the credibility, usefulness, and accuracy. So we got this definition right of the audit of performance information. Then can you see the examiner is telling us about performance auditing in the last 3 lines? Performance auditing. Can you see this word here? Performance auditing is related to the evaluation of how the public body is utilizing resources and is often focused on determining how the public sector body is achieving economy, efficiency, and effectiveness, and is sometimes referred to as a value for money auditing. Have you covered value for money auditing as a role of internal auditor in the F8 paper, the 3 E's audit? Can you remember that? So what is performance auditing? Performance auditing is as simple as that, a value for money auditing, where you focus on the 3 E's. So let's write the difference. The audit of performance information is where the auditor reviews the performance information reported against the predetermined objective, whereas the performance audit is where the auditor reviews the economy, efficiency, and effectiveness of the performance of, where the auditor reviews the economy, efficiency, and effectiveness of the resources utilized, commonly known as value for money auditing. So I'll get my 3 marks because I've wrote a difference exactly the same given by the examiner. So in one sentence, I tell what is an audit of performance information. Then in the next sentence, I tell what's the difference between performance information. Can you see this word whereas? So from the whereas, I broke. So before the whereas is the audit of performance information, and after the whereas is the performance auditing. I hope you can all see that in clarity, everyone, right? So difference is in the article. Now, very, very important, because a lot of times students are has a misconception, and some of those students are in the webinar as well, saying performance audit. Should we know performance audit for the AAA paper, or should we only know the audit of performance information for the AAA paper? Should we know both? Should we know one? The examiner makes the clarity. right? The examiner is very clever, right? Examiner reads the mind of the student very well. After the examiner tells you the difference between both, can you look at the last line of the examiner? The examiner is writing in the last line, it is the former that is the focus of the P7 syllabus. So the examiner is telling in the last line, it is the former which is the focus of the P7 syllabus. What is former here? Tongai, both are not examinable. What is former in the paragraph? In the paragraph, the examiner discussed first the auditor performance information, and later the examiner discussed performance auditing. So performance information was discussed first and performance auditing was discussed later. But examiner is saying it is the former that is the focus of the P7 syllabus. So which was former? The former was before. Which was before? Which was covered by the examiner before? The audit of performance information. So do you have performance audit in the syllabus? No. You only have audit of performance information in the syllabus, right? So do you have performance audit in the syllabus? A big cross, no. Do you have audit of performance information in the syllabus? Yes. Audit of performance information in the syllabus? Definitely. Because audit of performance information was the paragraph former. So the former paragraph is in the syllabus, right? Is that clear to everyone now? So audit of performance information is examinable, and you are looking at a June 17 paper where the same jargon is used. Performance auditing, value for money auditing, the 3 E's auditors is not the syllabus of the AAA, right? I'm teaching this paper for last 13 years, not a single question on value for money auditing, right? Because that's not part of the syllabus defined by the examiner. Is that clear to all of you? Okay, now move back. So that's the first. Look at the second. Recommend the procedures which should be used in auditing the performance information. So is the examiner using the right terminology? Is the examiner says performance auditing, or is the examiner saying auditing the performance information? So is the examiner using the right terminology? Audit of performance information. So that is your syllabus, right? And you need to make 70% procedures, 7 marks procedures, sorry. So let's start to write the procedures. Now for the procedures, what you need to do, anywhere, wherever you are applying procedures in AAA paper, what you need to do, you need to apply procedures versus case. Your procedures has to be case specific. If your procedures are case specific, you are writing a good procedure. But if your procedures are not case specific, you're writing bad procedures. Procedure. Every procedure should be linked to a case study. Now, have we got a list of procedures when we were reading the situation? Did we got this mnemonic somehow? TADMSR. Do you all remember this mnemonic we just discussed 10 minutes ago? Test of controls, analytical procedures, discussions, minutes, source document. Okay, we need to cleverly use that in the context of the information we have. Let's see how. Let's go down, reading the case. Okay, I'm giving you 3 minutes. Can you read this small case study from in addition up to not exceed 3%? Can you read this short paragraph and prepare yourself for writing 7 marks procedure? 3 minutes, your time starts now. See what's happening in the case study. And once you're read, please put in the chat box, done. Okay, good. I'm reading. in addition to the audit of the financial statement, so you are also the auditor of the Moosewood Hospital. So in addition to the audit of the financial statement, your firm is also required to conduct an audit of performance information of the Moosewood Hospital, right? Not performance audit of performance information. So see, is the examiner using the jargons very carefully? Examiner again and again is saying audit of performance information, right? So along with the audit of the financial statements, you're also responsible for the audit of the performance information, full stop. You are required to provide assurance. We have no idea which assurance, reasonable, moderate. Question is silent. With regards to both the accuracy and with regards to both the completeness of the three key performance measures which are given below. So you need to provide assurance with regards to the accuracy and completeness of the three key performance measures used to monitor the hospital efficiency and effectiveness, right? So what is our scope? Our scope is, if I can just put that on the Word file for a clarity, my scope is, or your scope is, provide an assurance on the accuracy, provide, just 1 minute, sorry. Okay, is to provide assurance on the accuracy and completeness of the three key performance measures given below, right? So I'll copy it, take it to my Word file. I'm getting a clue. I'm getting a clue from the case study, which will help me writing the procedures. Number one, what is my scope? My scope is to provide assurance on two very important aspects. One is accuracy and one is completeness of the three key performance measure given in the case study, right? Let's see. How can I confirm accuracy and completeness of the three key performance measure? The first one in the case is the performance measure number one is to maintain an average patient to nurse ratio of no more than 6:1, of no more than 6:1. Is that important for a hospital? Is that a very important objective of a hospital, that the nurse to patient ratio should be as low as possible? If you have a nurse to patient ratio of like 100:1, it's a very bad hospital. That means you only have one nurse serving 100 patients. But in this case, the Moosewood Hospital is saying no more than 6:1. That means for every 6 patients, there is one nurse, which is quite reasonable to control and handle the situation in a hospital, right? So, how to verify that the hospital, Moosewood Hospital, exactly have a 6:1 ratio or less than 6:1 ratio, not more than 6:1. If at any time your ratio is more than 6:1, you are not meeting the objective. So you need to see on a monthly basis that the ratio is 6:1 or less than 6:1, not more than that, right? So that's the first parameter. Now, before I start attacking 1, 2, 3, in journal, should I write one procedure before I start writing specific procedures? Should I perform a test of controls over the Moosewood, Hospital systems, generating the performance information, to ensure that the information extracted is accurate and complete? Is that my journal first procedure, which is helping me that I perform controls over the hospital systems generating the performance information to ensure that the information extracted is accurate and complete? If the system is robust, if the system is good, will that give me credibility on the performance measures, everyone? So did I link the first procedure to Moosewood Hospital? Are you all clear? The next procedure I need to make is on the nurse to patient ratio, 6:1. So first of all, should I discuss with the Moosewood Hospital management which patients are included in the determination in the determination of 6:1 ratio, whether whether emergency patients whether emergency patients are included in it, or only the regular admissions are included. Only the regular admissions are included. I hope you have an idea of the hospitals. You have two parts of the hospital, right? One is the emergency part where everyone is on the toes, and one is a regular admission where you are admitted to a room, like a private room, right? So I need to see a clarity from the management that a 6:1 ratio, is that applicable for only the regular admissions, or is that applicable only also for the emergency cases? Because there is a separate emergency ward in the hospital and there is a private rooms in the hospital, right? So the ratio might be different in a emergency situation and the ratio might be different in a normal situation. Is that clear? Is that how the hospital works everywhere? So we need to discuss management, which patients. So if I'm recalculating, I know exactly which patients to include. Then should I review the human resource records? Should I review the human resource records to confirm the number total number of nurses on the payroll of Moosewood Hospital? Will that help me to determine the 6:1 ratio? Moosewood Hospital. So review the human resource records, right, to confirm the total number of nurses on the payroll of the Moosewood Hospital. Now, once I know the nurses on the payroll, once I know which patients to include and which patients not to, can I review the appointment records of the hospital to confirm the number of patients to confirm the total number of patients? Can I review the appointment records of the hospital for the year to confirm the total number of patients admitted or visited the hospital? So once I know the patients, once I know the nurses, now can I recalculate? Can I recalculate the patient, the nurse to patient ratio, the nurse to patient ratio to ensure that 6:1 is an accurate 6:1 is an accurate that 6:1 is an accurate performance information. So if my result also comes 6:1 or less than 6:1, is that good? Because management is saying no more than 6:1. So will that confirm me the accuracy of the ratio? 6:1, right? Okay, nurse to patient ratio or patient to nurse ratio. Patient to nurse ratio, right? So are these procedures making sense? A procedure has to start with a action: perform, discuss, review, discuss, review, recalculate. A procedure has to start with an action. Have I linked them with the hospital? Have I deliberately used the word hospital management, or did I specify Moosewood Hospital Management? Is that better? A lot of time the students don't use the name of the hospital, name of the company in the case. Why? It's very bad. Review the human resource records. So was I looking at the source document? From where will I get the total number of nurses? The human resource record. So was I looking at the source document? Did I review the appointment records? Is that a source document? Now look at the mnemonic TADMSR. TADMSR. And look at the first situation. Have I applied T on the overall situation first? Have I applied D, discussions, in a very careful manner? Have I applied the source document? How many source documents have I used? I've used one source document, which was the human resource record. And I've used the second source document, which was the appointment records of the hospital, right? And have I used the recalculation? But did I forcefully wrote them, or did my do my procedure make sense? Is my procedure senseful, or are they illogical procedures? So if you know the TAD-MSR, read the case study and see what can be applied. Don't just say, okay, I'll apply all of them. I apply all of them, right? So how many procedures we need in total? 7. How many performance informations we have? 3. I just made 5 on just 1. So can you continue on the track? Look at this. Can you pick up the second performance information and convert that to a procedure? Can you pick up the third and convert that to a procedure? You need total of 7. I just made 5 on 1. If I go on that track, I might end up writing 15 procedures. I just need 7. Is that clear to all of you? Right? And in the same way, just to give you an example, just one last example in exiting from this situation. Uh, to achieve a 75% usage of the surgical rooms. So they should achieve a 75% annual usage of the surgical rooms. Now, you know the surgical rooms in the hospital, right? Where the surgeries are performed, just like the operation theaters. There might be minor surgical rooms and major surgical rooms where you perform the major operations and the minor operations, just like minor injuries as well, even the fractures. So, first of all, the company is saying we need to achieve a 75% annual usage of the surgical rooms. Now, should I know the total number of surgical rooms the hospital have? Should I discuss with them, or should I review the records of the hospital to know how many surgical rooms they have in place? Do they have 5 surgical rooms or 7 or 8? Is that right? Right. So first of all, I'm not giving you a procedure. I'm giving you a thought process. I hope this thought process will help you extract a procedure. Thought process. First of all, should I know the number of the surgical rooms or not? Surgical rooms, how many? Should I know this? Good. Okay, next. Achieve a 75% annual usage of the surgical rooms. Should I analyze the trends in the usage of the surgical rooms last last few years to see, is this percentage varying, or is that exactly the same over the last few years? How much was the usage in the last year, 2019, for example? How much was the usage in the 2018? Do normally Moosewood Hospital has a 75% annual usage, or is it more in certain years, or is it less in certain years? So can I do a trend analysis of the usage percentage over the last few years to ensure that 75% is more and less the average? What if the usage percentage in the last few years have been less, and this time the management is claiming it to be more? So can there be any fabrication? Can they fabricate to show that the hospital is working very well? Lots of patients are coming to the hospital. So should I have a consistency of these with the previous track records of the surgical rooms? So I should know the surgical rooms, how many. I should know the analyzing of the trend of the percentage over the last few years. I can review the occupancy register for surgical rooms. Whenever you get an admission in a surgical room, normally the hospital have a register where they maintain the record of the patient and the surgery performed. So the occupancy register of the surgical room, I can review the occupancy register of the surgical room to understand how many surgeries are performed, how many surgeries are performed on a given day. on a given day. And you go on this way thinking. Whenever you attack a procedure, first think, then try to convert the most logical one into a good procedure. Surgical rooms, how many, analyzing the trends and occupancy register. This is just a thought process, which might help you refine a very good procedure around achieve a 75% annual usage of the surgical rooms. So do we maintain registers for surgical rooms? Do we have a source document for surgical rooms? Whenever a surgical room is booked, we have a register where the booking take place, right? So that can help us, right, in ensuring uh, the time the surgical rooms were occupied throughout the year. So you take every performance information, think, and convert to a procedure. Is that clear to all of you? I think knowing about hospital is a very common sense phenomena, right? Almost every one of us sometime in the recent years must have gone to the hospitals, right, for a normal treatment, to a major treatment, or even for for an OPD clinics. We must have gone to the hospitals. We know how the records are maintained in the hospitals. Every patient record is maintained in the hospital. At times the hospitals issues the patient registration cards even. A lot of hospitals have the computerized systems to maintain the database of the patients for the recurring patients coming in, because a lot of time there is a recurring of the patients as well, that one patient comes to the hospital again and again for different treatments. So you should have a common sense. It's not the industry. Examiner says you should not have an industry knowledge when you're attempting a AAA paper, but you should have something common sense analysis which goes around the case study. Is that clear? Okay, that's great. So that is it for the topic audit of performance information. Please do watch my webinar June 19 alongside this March 21 webinar day 5. Together, they will give you a lot of knowledge on audit of performance information and make you feel better on the December 14 paper, on the December 15 paper, and on the June 17 paper, the one we just checked for, right? Okay, now off this topic, if you're all clear on this, right? And I'm proceeding towards my next topic, which is the knowledge areas. I just want to spend a very scattered time on knowledge areas because there's so many. And I want to give you a realization of knowledge areas. And I want to spend a careful 15 to 20 minutes on giving you a techniques, how you can improve upon your time management in the AAA paper. So we have diversified agenda. And again, the time is running on this final day, right? I hope you're all clear. We've given good enough time on audit of performance information since we started at 8:30. It's like 9:50, so it's almost like we've given an odd 70-75 minutes to this topic, right? Which is wonderful in the context of 3 hours fitting. Okay, now off to this topic and moving towards the next agenda. Okay, the next agenda for the day is to focus on the knowledge areas where the students are in ignorance. They ignore knowledge and they go to the exam hall. Knowledge areas. There are so many articles on the website of AAA which are knowledge, and you tend to ignore knowledge areas. I have no idea why. If I can just open the website of the technical articles for AAA in front of you, so you realize the importance. This is the page, right, where you have all the articles, right? This is the page where you have all the articles. I hope you can see the articles coming here, right? So I copy this hyperlink and I put this hyperlink to all of you in the chat box, right? I hope all of you got this link. Have you all got this link in the chat box where we have all the articles for AAA? Okay, good. Now be very careful. When you go to this website, I will be needing your spontaneous answers every time I ask you a question because I am on a web page. So I need to scroll this web page. So some information will go off quickly. Look at the articles on the top. Can you see the first article, part 1 ethics, everyone? Exam technique articles, right? Can you see the second article, exam technique article, part 2 risk? Can you see the third article, exam technique article, accounting issues? Can you see the fourth exam technique article, part 4, writing a good audit procedure? And can you see the fifth one, exam technique article, part 5, audit reporting? So the first 5 articles on the website given, when you look at the first 5 articles on the website, they're not knowledge articles, right? They are known as technique articles. Technique articles. Technique articles, how to write an answer, right? How to write a good answer. How to write a good answer. And in how many areas has the examiner covered the technique articles of how to write a good answer? In all the core areas. How to write a good answer for ethics. How to write a good answer for risk. How to write a good answer for accounting issues, which comes so many times. You need to calculate the materiality. You need to write the accounting treatment in so many questions. Procedures, how to write a good procedure and how to answer a good reporting question, audit report, reporting. Wonderful, 5 technique articles. I hope you explore all of them before your exam day. I've been encouraging them over the last 4 days wherever I got chance. First 5 articles is techniques. Is that clear on the website, everyone? Now, after the first 5 article, when you go to the article number, when you go to the article number 6 onwards, we are going top down, right? Top down on the website, top down. So when you take a top down approach on the AAA technical articles, so the first 5 articles in the top down approach are what? The first 5 articles are technical articles, right? Uh, then the article from 6 onwards, let's see what they are. Go back to the website. There is an article on group audit. You know, group audit article covers how you must have seen a lot of audit risk questions which comes on group, right? You start attempting a question on audit risk or risk of material misstatement and you find, okay, this is a Francis group or this is a Ryder group. In the past 6 papers, you must have seen a lot of time the first question is focused on a group situation, right? uh, when you are focusing on group audits, you need to know the group accounting standards. There might be an accounting treatments around IFRS 3. There might be accounting treatments around IFRS 10. There might be accounting treatments around joint ventures, IFRS 11. There might be accounting treatments around IS 28, associates. So you should be good around the group accounting standards if the situation involves the group audits. So examiner has realized that in the article. The group audit article is a wonderful article as it gives you a good knowledge about how group aspects are covered in the question number 1 when it comes on risk. So please do spend time on group audit. The knowledge part of the group audit is using the work of the component auditor. Have you ever covered this topic? Using the work of a component auditor? How the group auditor uses the work of a component auditor. How the group auditor evaluates the competence and independence of the component auditor. So if you want to take knowledge of that, that is given in the group audit article. So I'll rate the group audit article as a knowledge article, number 6th. So on number 6th, the article is group audit, and the group audit article will help you with the knowledge of using the work of component auditor, and you should be good on it. Right, yes, exactly. I've done a video of that as well on my YouTube channel on group audit. Thank you for reminding me that, Kiran Kumar. Wonderful if you've seen that. So uh, group audit, knowledge of using the work of knowledge about using the work of internal auditor. And if you read this out, it's good for you. That's the 6th article. I'm recommending you read it. Number next, 7th. The 7th article on the website is data analytics and the auditor. I don't find any need of this for March 21 exams. You should read it, but I should not prioritize it. that you should spend time. It was tested in December 20 paper. It's an emerging issue. It's an emerging issue. We know the world is shifting towards data analytics. The world is shifting towards artificial intelligence. So as an auditor, as a AAA student, you should know about the data analytics, but it has been examined for knowledge in the last exam sitting. So I will not give it value for March exams, but if you find time later, a day before exam, just brush over it. So leave the article number 7th. Come to the article number 8, audit in a specialized industry. You should know this article. You should know what the exam auditor do when they're auditing a specialized industry. When you're auditing a specialized industry, what sort of things you need to focus on. If you get a question in exam paper where you are an auditor of a specialized industry, examiner has given you the examples of specialized industry, and examiner has exactly tell you what extra you need to do when you're auditing a specialized industry. So I will rate the article next. This was the article number 6, right? Then article number 7 has been ignored. Article number 8, audit in a specialized industry. Audit in a specialized industry. So have I skipped the article number 7, everyone? Are you getting that? Have I skipped the 7th article? I've come to 8th, audit in a specialized industry. Please read it. Next article. Let's see which one. Okay, evaluation of misstatements. Now, evaluation of misstatement is an article which goes with a reporting question. And to be good on reporting, you should know this article, evaluation of misstatements. How you evaluate a misstatement. Is it material? Is it not material? Will it lead down to a qualified opinion or not? I hope you remember we were doing a question on day 3 of the webinar where we got that schedule of uncorrected misstatement. And in that schedule of uncorrected misstatement, we have a lease asset debit and a lease liability credit. That schedule of uncorrected misstatement relates with this article, evaluation of misstatement. So this is not a knowledge article, this is an application article. So just not worried about it. Next article, responding to NOCLA. Now this is a wonderful knowledge article. This is something you should know, that how an auditor responds to a non-compliance. If you're doing an audit of a company and during the audit of a company you find a non-compliance with laws, what is the auditor responsibility for non-compliance? How the auditor should report non-compliance? This is wonderful article. So the next article you should focus on is not number 9th, rather number 10th. On number 10th you have responding to NOCLA. Responding to NOCLA, non-compliance with laws and regulation. What you should know from this article? From this article, you should know the auditor responsibility. Auditor responsibility for NOCLA. So if you are auditing a company and you find a NOCLA, non-compliance with laws and regulation, what will you do? Auditor responsibility for NOCLA. Next, as a student, you should know how does auditor reports NOCLA? How does auditor reports NOCLA? These are two very important things you should know from this article, right? Knowledge article. You might get a 5 marks question on the responsibilities of an auditor towards non-compliance. What will you do then in the March 21 exams? These are knowledge articles, right? Move on. Further knowledge articles. 10. Okay, 10. After that is 11. Corporate governance and its impact on the audit practice. A wonderful knowledge article. It tells you about the role of the audit committee. You should know the role of the audit committee. What if you get a 5-6 marks question where you need to speak of the role of the audit committee, or you need to connect the role of the audit committee with the case paper? So corporate governance and its impact on audit, I should not ignore it. I should keep it in my list of the knowledge articles. Number 11, corporate governance. The article on number 11, the corporate governance, please do have a reading of this. From this article, you should know the role of audit committee, what exactly the audit committee do in the context of an audit cycle. Okay, number 11, you come to number 12. On number 12, you have an article, auditing disclosures in financial statement. Now, I would consider this as a knowledge article, auditing disclosures in financial statement. I've already covered a video on this on my YouTube channel. On auditing disclosure, you can watch that. I've covered this. Auditing disclosures in the financial statements. You know disclosures are important. in the financial statement. You also know there is a risk that the management might omit disclosures. There is a risk that the management might conceal disclosures. There is a risk that the management might not give a complete disclosures. So do you believe there can be a significant risk of material misstatement when it comes to disclosures in the financial statement? Do you agree with me? So do you know how you audit disclosures? What if you get procedures for 5 marks on a disclosure and you are blank? If you read this article, you will get to know what sort of procedures the auditor makes on disclosures to verify disclosures. So please make a habit of reading this article, Auditing Disclosures. It will really be making your mindset about the risk in disclosures and what sort of procedures you make on disclosures, right? So number 12, Auditing Disclosures. I cannot put it off my list of articles. Auditing Disclosures. What you should get from this article. The risk in disclosures, you should get this out of the article, and you should get to know the procedures to be performed on disclosures. So 2 wonderful learnings from this article, right? I hope this is helping you, right? What I'm doing since the last 10 minutes. I'm scrolling every article and telling you, okay, read this, don't read this. What will you get out of this? I hope this list, once developed in the next 5 minutes, will be helpful. Is that so? Okay, that's great. Because I think there was a frequently asked question somewhere on the day 1 or day 2. Can you kindly give us a list of articles to read, right? Okay, that's great. Student loves such list of such summaries or such list, right? Okay, next, the 13th article in order. Performance information in public sector. We've already covered that today, right? So was that a knowledge article? Yes, it was giving us knowledge about the difference between performance audit and audit of performance information, about the type of reports. So performance information in the public sector, already part of the list. Number 13th came today. Performance information in public sector. You exactly know what to do in this article, right? So I'm not writing a summary. Next, 14th article. Let's see, should we read it? Should we not? Okay, laws and regulations. Wonderful article. You should know the auditor responsibility for laws and regulation. You should know the management responsibility for laws and regulation. So this article just explore the segregation of responsibilities between the management and the auditor on laws and regulations. So laws and regulations. Should read this article. And from this article, you should know the management versus auditor responsibility when it comes to laws and regulations versus auditor responsibility for laws and regulations, right? So that's the only one thing you need to get out of this article. 15th article. Let's see. What is that? Audit quality, a perpetual current issue. I think this was not a knowledge article. This is an application article, right? Where you need to apply, quality control was discussed on day 2. It is all application, no rote learnings, right? So I cannot consider this article as an article to read. I've recommended this article, but I'm currently trying to focus on those articles which can give you a lot of knowledge and that can help you out in exam paper. Professional skepticism, wonderful. You should know this article. You should read this article. You should know the importance of professional skepticism. You should know the meaning of the word professional skepticism from this article, right? So 15th is skipped. We come to 16th. Professional skepticism. So this is the 16th article from top of the website. Professional skepticism, you should know the meaning. You should know the importance of professional skepticism when you're reading this article, right? It has come in past papers, very old past papers, I think 2015-14. Examiner used to ask the meaning and importance of professional skepticism. 17th article. The 17th article, yes, using the work of internal auditors. I've already included that in my day 5, using the work of internal auditors. Wonderful article. It tells you how you use the work of internal auditor. I hope you know the mechanism of using the work of internal auditor from even a AA paper. Using the work of an internal auditor, you should know the you should know the criteria. You should know the criteria of using the work. I hope you all know that criteria. You all know that you should look at the competence. You should look at the independence of the internal auditor before you rely on the internal auditor. You should look at the competence. You should look at the experience before you rely on the internal auditor. And you look at the independence before you rely on the internal auditor. So please have a brush of knowledge using the work of internal auditors, right? A couple of times this question has come in past paper for like 5 to 6 marks. Okay, article number 18, next after that is auditor liability. Since very long, I think the last time there was a question on auditor liability was way back in 2012, June. Since June 2012, we are now in 2021. It's almost like 9 years. No question on auditor liability. Still, it is a wonderful article. Still, it is an article not deleted from an ACC website. Still, it is an article which is a regular part of the syllabus. So you should know the auditor liability. When is auditor liable? In what context is the auditor liable? So you should read this article. Auditor liability. What if it comes in the March 2021 exam? It's almost a decade. No question on this. Auditor liability. You should know when is auditor liable? When is auditor liable? And how can auditor limit the liability? It's all given in the article, right? Next, 19th. The 19th article, control environment, no, not to read. It's not an article relevant. Control environment, normally systems controls don't come in the AAA paper. Just ignore that. Completing the audit is a more conceptual article. It's an article which tells you the type of activities which happens at the stage of completion. You know, completion is the section B. One of the question in section B comes on the completion stage, right? So you should have a general idea of things which happen at the completion stage. I'm not putting it in the article for knowledge. Okay, the next, acceptance decision for audit and assurance engagement. This is good because this is the topic we were discussing yesterday and even today. Matters to consider when a firm is invited to a tender. This is the article, acceptance decision. I've covered this in my December 20 webinar, practice management. So should you know the matters you should consider when you are invited to a tender for a new audit client or from an existing audit client? What sort of matters will you consider when you are invited to a tender from a new client, like the one we were doing yesterday, Bear Company on day 4? What if you get an invitation from an existing client? So I think you should know the parameters. You should know the parameters from this article. So I'm considering this article in my list. So how many articles have I skipped after auditor liability? 1, 2, and we're coming to third. So we skipped the article 19, we skipped the article 20, we're coming to the article 21, which is on acceptance decision. Acceptance decision, you should read it. And from this article, you should know the matters to consider when a firm is invited. When a firm is invited. Wonderful article. Next, 22nd. Let's see, does that make sense? 22nd or not? 22nd, no, computer-based environment, very old. Analytical procedures, leave them out. Going concerns, that's obsolete because going concern has come in the reporting question now and things have changed. Audit risk, no, audit risk is covered in the exam technique article. You know, that's an application topic. Okay, how many articles are we skipping? Just need a 21st, 22nd, no, 23rd, no, 24th, no, 25th, no, 26th, no, 27th, no. 28th, yes. Auditor and fraud. You should know the auditor responsibility for fraud. So 28th article, ISA 240, auditor and fraud. So a big jump and 28th. So 28th, auditor and fraud. So you should know the auditor. Did we had a question yesterday when we were discussing forensic that what sort of difficulties the management and auditor will face in detecting fraud? Some sort of those questions, right? Management and auditor responsibility for fraud. So you should know this. 29th article after that. Let's see, does that make sense? Forensic. Yes, forensic was in my list. I cannot ignore that. And after that, there is an article, auditor report to those charged with governance, which should be knowledge. Auditor report to those charged with governance, which matters do you communicate to those charged with governance? You should know a list of matters which you communicate to those charged with governance. I've already covered that in my previous webinars. There has been an exam question in the past paper. I think either it was in the March, June 19 paper, question number 2, or yes, it was in March, June 19, question number 2, where the examiner asked you to explain the matters you will communicate to those charged with governance, and you need to link them with a case study. But if you know this article, you can attempt that question in a better manner, right? So I think forensic audit, and auditor report to those charged with governance. Both will be last two articles to read. So Article 29, forensic, and Article 30, final, which is uh, auditor report to those charged with governance. Auditor report to TCWG. From this article, you should know the matters which are communicated to TCWG. You should know the examples given by the examiner because those same examples can come in the past paper. You can attempt the question March, June 19, if I'm not wrong. March, June 19, question number 2, part B. I think I've already covered in some of my webinars this question. Forensic, you know what is to be done for forensic, right? So that is the list. Now, how many articles in total we have to read? We have 5 technique articles, leave them out. Technique means conceptual. Look at the knowledge-based articles where you need to be focused on. We got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We almost got like 14 articles which are considered as knowledge and can really boost your AAA prospects if you read them. 14 articles, and I think we have 3 weeks to exam, right? Not a bad equation. Not a bad equation. Even if you read one a day, you will finish them in 2 weeks. Some are too small. You might do 2 in a day. Is that clear to all of you? Is this list helpful? Will this list be helping you all in context? Okay, that's great. So that was one of a very important discussion we need to have around knowledge articles, important knowledge articles. I believe auditor liability seems important. Don't ignore that. I've already included professional skepticism in my list of important articles. Using the work of internal auditor as an important area. Try to be strong on professional skepticism. Try to be strong on using the work of internal auditors. Try to be strong on auditor liability as like 3 potentials, right? But you have to go over the list, right? You have to go over the list, right? So far, there is no current issues, right? See, we are looking at this article website today on the 6th of Feb, right? Today is the 6th of Feb, and we're looking at this article list today. You're looking at the website today on the 6th. So far, no article on current issues. So if it comes in the next 3-4 days, I'll update you, but the chances looks dim of a current issue article for March 2021. So please explore these articles, go over these articles, maximize your opportunities of passing. Articles really boost your confidence. I've seen a lot of times students spend last few days on book. I prefer you spend last few days on articles because they can really give you the knowledge, which is required to pass the AAA paper, right? Fine. Okay, that's great. Okay, let's go back and finish off this list. Okay, now with that perspective, let's take a quick break for 10 minutes. We'll resume back at 10:25, and from 10:25, I'll just spend a quick analysis of the past papers of knowledge, just to give you an idea which past papers you should practice on knowledge. And after that, we'll spend time on the time management techniques to improve your time management in the AAA paper, right? So it's a break now. Please come back to the live class at 10:25 and we'll resume back with the final 1 hour of this webinar. Okay, I hope you had a productive learnings today. The day 5, the final day, must have given you some extra knowledge where we left the day 4. And I hope this final day is giving you some better perspectives of preparing yourself for exams even. And please, please, please ensure that you keep watching the previous webinar. Giselle, is that the right pronunciation I'm using or not? Please drop your question on the WhatsApp group. I'll try my best if I can respond to your question during the break. So don't be worried about that. No need to send, I think you're sending the crying faces, no need to send that, because obviously it's humanly impossible that you respond to every question during the webinar. And you are, if I start doing that, then I cannot conduct the webinar. So take a break. I'll respond to your question during the break, right? Don't be worried about it. We'll resume back at 10:25. Off to a break. I'm muting myself. Okay, welcome back everyone. I hope all of you can hear me and my voice is loud and clear to all of you. Okay, that's great. And you can see the screen in front of you. We need to spend a quick time on knowledge areas and how to secure them. Now, obviously, knowledge areas is like very scattered, right? I have given you one way of securing the knowledge areas is to read plenty of knowledge articles, right? If you read plenty of knowledge articles, at least you have the right knowledge. But when you look at the past papers on knowledge areas, the past papers on knowledge areas are very, very scattered. You cannot say, okay, I'll do the last 6 papers and I'll be good on the knowledge areas. No, because when you look at the past papers for knowledge areas, the past papers for knowledge areas are very scattered. Now, if you say, okay, I'll just keep my last 6 papers for knowledge, you will not be prepared well. Because see, the core areas, risk, reporting, procedures, evidence, other assignments. You can polish them from the last 6 papers, right? Not even other assignments can be polished from the last 6 papers because we have seen the performance information today. It was not even in the last 6 papers. So there are some topics which comes on a very regular basis, like risk, reporting, procedures, evidence, ethical, professional, quality control issues. For them, the last 6 papers are wonderful. But for topics like the other assignments, even yesterday and today, I recommended you to go to very old papers, right? Like 2013 and 2014 and 2015, right? So that is the case with knowledge areas. I think for knowledge areas, if you are attempting the past papers, because they're so scattered, somewhere 6, somewhere 10, somewhere 2, somewhere 4, the questions are so scattered and finding them is so difficult, I would prefer that you should determine a radius, and that radius of past papers should be, just 1 minute, that radius of past papers should be from 2014 exams to 2020 exams. Now, obviously, you will not find the old papers. I'll be sharing them with you on the WhatsApp group. Don't worry about it. I'll share the 2014, 15, 16, 17 papers with you, and onwards you can find on the website. But you just need to open a question paper, and in every question paper you need to just scroll over question number 1, 2, 3, and in the old formats question number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just to see is any knowledge area asked for, and try to maintain a register or a writing pad where you can just keep noting in which exam sitting which knowledge area has come, because there is a lot of repetition in knowledge areas. So there might be a case that there is a knowledge area in 2014 exams which now come in 2020 in 2021 exams, or there is a knowledge area tested in 2015 exams which reoccur back in the March 2021 exams. So you have to practice the scattered paper. If I just show you one example, right? Suppose uh, what I'm trying to say. Suppose you open the June 16 paper, right? Now on your screen, can you see the June 16 paper? Just 1 minute. Can you see the June 16 paper? Right. This is exactly what you have to do from 14 to 20. Now you open one paper and you scroll over the paper. Okay, you scroll down the paper. Okay, the question number 1 mostly is like application with very less knowledge, but you just scroll over the requirements A, B, C. Okay, and in the very first requirement A, you find knowledge. Explain why analytical procedures are performed as risk assessment procedures at the planning stage. 5 marks. Is that knowledge? Is the examiner asking for why analytical procedures are performed as part of the risk assessment procedure? That means examiner is asking for what is the importance of analytical procedure at the planning stage for 5 marks. Is that knowledge? See, random. Now you should know why analytical procedures are performed at the stage of why analytical procedures are performed as fundamental part of risk assessment procedure at the planning stage. 5 marks. You go down, scroll down, you come to question number 2. In the question number 2, okay, you have ethical, professionals, and quality control issues. That's not knowledge. Next question is the evidence, not knowledge. Okay, next question. Discuss why auditor should presume there is a risk of fraud in revenue recognition. This is a 7 marks question on ISA 240. Now you need to read the article ISA 240. Once you read the article on ISA 240, you can solve these 7 marks in just 5 minutes because everything covered is in the article. Knowledge. Discuss why auditor should presume there is a risk of fraud in revenue recognition, so on and so forth. ISA 240, 7 marks. Read the ISA 240. Then you go down and you find the question number 4. Now see, in the question number 4, first part, 4A. In the 4A, this is June 16, right? This is June 16 paper. 4A, explain the difference between audit of an historical financial statement and a limited assurance review, 4 marks. Explain the difference between audit and a limited assurance review for 4 marks. Is that an F8 knowledge, that to create a difference between a reasonable assurance and a moderate assurance, right? So 4 marks. What are advantages and disadvantages to a daily company of having an audit of their historical financial statement as opposed to a limited assurance review? What advantages or what disadvantages will the company get if they have their financial statements audited rather reviewed? So, the audit gives you a higher assurance, right? And the limited assurance review gives you a less assurance. And the number of procedures you perform in audit are more. The number of procedures you perform in a limited assurance review are less. So the scope of audit is bigger. The scope of a limited assurance review is narrow. So probably the Delhi company might get a better advantage from audit rather than review, because audit is more beneficial, because audit is more deep inside, right? So see these questions. Just in a June 16 paper, we got so many knowledge marks. Why analytical procedures are performed at the risk assessment stage, 5 marks. Then we got uh, why should auditor presume there is a risk of fraud in revenue recognition, 7 marks, 12. Then we got the difference between audit and a limited assurance review, 4, 16. Then we got the advantages and disadvantages, 8, 24 marks out of the 100 marks. This is an old paper, 24 marks in the old paper. What if some of these questions repeat in your exam settings in March 21? What if the examiner again asks you what is the difference between audit and a limited assurance review? You will regret yourself if you have not scrolled over the past papers. So are you getting my point, everyone? Should you make a habit of scrolling over these papers right from 2014 June right from June 2014 to December 20? Should you scroll? Have I given you the relevance of scrolling? So when you are scrolling over the past papers in this radius, you will get plenty of knowledge questions. You will get plenty of knowledge questions. Note them down, note them down, note them down, plus do them. So you might be lucky enough that in March 21 exams, if knowledge comes, it might be a repetition of something you've done in the last 6 to 7 years, because that's the case. That's the case with the AAA paper. So scroll down, note them down, and do them. And that will create a very good data, but that will create a very good knowledge bank for you, right? A knowledge bank for you. Is that the right approach, everyone? Is that in that way will you be helpful to find the number of smaller parts which have come in the AAA paper, 4 marks, 6 marks, 8 marks? And if you get a question on ISA 240 fraud, just like June 16 paper, before you solve it, will you read the article on fraud? Will you read the article on fraud before you sit down and start solving the question on fraud? So you need to find the strategy, you need to find the mechanism of how would you go down with knowledge areas. But the risk with knowledge areas is they are scattered over the so many years. So you have to take a broad radius from June 14 to December 20. Scroll them, identify them, and do them. That's the best way you can prepare for knowledge areas, and read all recommended articles. That's a wonderful way you can prepare yourself in a better manner for knowledge areas. I believe, if you might agree with me, that a lot of time students put very less time on knowledge areas. They ignore knowledge areas. They don't scroll the past papers for knowledge areas. For the fundamental areas, like risk, for like reporting, for like ethical professional quality control issues, for procedures, for evidence, for reporting, only the six papers from September 18 to December 20, right? But for the knowledge areas, scattered. Even for other assignments, I've recommended, for every other assignment, I have recommended which papers to do. Is that clear to all of you? So will you explore knowledge areas? And will you identify answers for them by reading the articles? Will that really help you all in context? Right? So when you are reading all the articles, try to find from the articles the advantages and disadvantages wherever given. So in any article, if you find advantages and disadvantages, note it down. In any article, if you find differences between something, note it down. If in any article you find responsibilities of the management and the auditor, note it down, because these are all things which are potential, which can come. So you're reading an article and you come across advantages and disadvantages, note it down. You're reading an article, you come across a difference, note it down. You're reading an article, you come across responsibilities of a management and auditor, note it down, because these are potential areas which have come in the past paper. Is that clear to all of you? If any meaning is given, if any definition is given, note it down. If any importance is given of anything, note it down, because the examiner might ask you explain the importance of something. So such areas from within the knowledge articles are potential. Is that clear to all of you? In what scope, in what perspective you need to read the knowledge articles? Is that helpful to all of you? Will this help you all? Waiting for your answers, everyone. Okay, that's great. Now, you need to find some important areas which have been in more regular context over the past years. If I can just give you some examples and exit from it. Number one, the anti-money laundering policies for an audit firm. I hope you've seen a lot of time when a question comes on money laundering, the examiner asks you a knowledge. What recommend the anti-money laundering policies for an audit firm? And these are rote learn. These are given in the book, because on money laundering there is no article. So you can read the anti-money laundering policies from a book and be good. Even in December 18 paper, right? In December 18 paper, question number 3, there was, I think, 4 marks on the anti-money laundering policies, which needs to be put directly. Then questions like using the work of an expert, using the work of an internal auditor, or using the work of an component auditor. I hope you know all of them. There are articles only on component auditor. I recommended you that today. There is an article on internal auditor. I recommended that today. There is no article on an expert. But you know, whenever you are using the work of another person, you should know the criteria. And the criteria remains the same, right? The criteria consisting of independence, the criteria consisting of experience, the criteria consisting of the competence. And that remains same for all 3 of them. So you should have a general idea. A lot of questions have come in the past paper on this particular area. You should know the areas like how should auditor limit liability. This will come from the article Auditor Liability. You should know in what situations auditor is liable, right? You should know the auditor responsibilities for laws and regulations. You should know auditor responsibility for opening balances. You should know auditor responsibility for fraud. So in lots of areas, you should know the responsibility of the auditor. That's one. Next, you should know the meaning. You should know the importance of professional skepticism. So you should know the role of audit committee. I'm just trying to bring them at one place. Uh, you should even I think in the last attempt, if I'm not mistaken, it was I think December attempt or September attempt somewhere, where the examiner asked for the advantages and disadvantages of joint audit. I think it was June exam sitting or December. In a very recent paper, the joint audit advantages and disadvantages. So such things needs to be on your fingertips. You need to be good. What's the difference? What's the difference between due diligence and audit? What's the difference between a due diligence review and an audit of financial statements? Or what is the difference between uh, a reasonable assurance and versus a moderate assurance? Moderate assurance. So something like that. Or what difficulties, we got this question yesterday, what difficulties will management face in detecting fraud? Or what difficulties will the auditor face in detecting fraud? Such questions are so random. In a certain exam setting, they might be there. And in a certain exam setting, there might not be a single knowledge question. There are so many recent exam papers where there is not a single knowledge mark. But in some, there are. What's the importance of planning? Importance of planning. What's the importance of analytical procedures? The list goes on. So please scroll the recent papers from 14 to 20. I hope this makes sense. And when you scroll them, you find more examples. Is that clear to all of you? Yes. The knowledge marks used to be on a bit higher side in the older papers, right? But as the P7 paper or as the AAA paper, Mohammed Zain is becoming more mature, the knowledge marks are going down. So in the last few exam settings, we have seen very less knowledge marks, 6 to 8. In the initial papers, the knowledge marks used to be on a higher side. Even if you go very old, in very old papers like 2011 and 12, the knowledge marks used to be a way too much. So is everyone clear on this? So will you be preparing yourself effectively for knowledge areas? I hope I've given you the right track. We cannot cover every knowledge area in the webinar, but at least I can show you the direction to prepare. Have everyone got a direction to prepare the knowledge areas? Will you keep a writing pad with you, a register with you, and you note down the answers of the knowledge areas in one place so that 2 days, 3 days before the exam paper, you can just revise all the knowledge areas? So will you bring the knowledge areas on one place, on your register, on your writing pad, somewhere, and you keep that with you for revision? So you need to do one-time effort from 2014 to 2020, but once you have your notes ready, will that notes help you 3 days before the exam to revise things up? So that's how you need to prepare yourself, right? A lot of time, I believe the students are so disorganized that results in the failure in the AAA paper. They don't know the right sources. They don't know the right way to read. They don't know what to read, when to read. They're so disorganized. And that results in the failure in the AAA paper as well. Okay, let's move to the last aspects when I need to spend time very carefully with all of you. Some of the final tips, techniques, and more important than that, I need to guide you about the the time management, right? Let's move towards some final tips and techniques for March 21. Now, when you look at the final tips and techniques for your exams coming up in March 2021, we very particular. You should ensure that you have the right way forward. Let's see how. First of all, I like to spend 10 minutes speaking on time management. A big problem, right? A lot of time you come out of the exam hall with incomplete paper. Now, listen to me very carefully. An incomplete paper in a AAA context is something which is very common. Very, very rare you will complete 100 marks paper. But an ideal average um, of completing paper is 90%. 90. If you complete your paper up to 90%, that's quite fine. And if you've done a good 90% paper, you will pass in the first exam setting. Completing 100% paper, I think that would be one student out of 5 who do that. So that equation is very bad. 1 out of 5 student completes 100% paper. But normally 4 out of 5 students have incomplete paper, either 10%, either 20%. I've again and again emphasized on the time management, right? And I've again and again emphasized on how to ensure that you run over the paper. Now, see, you have 3 questions, right, in the paper. You have the question 1, you have the question 2, you have the question 3. You have to run over them. And every question has an ideal time. I don't understand the student methodology of spending over time. Do you believe each of these questions have a time zone? Do each of these questions have a particular time zone? Do each of them has a particular time? Each of them have a particular time, right? And it has to be completed within the time as much as possible. You cannot complete it 100%. And the students, they write so much, they can never complete it. So within the time as much as possible. Look at this statement, as much as possible. So suppose you were attempting the question number 1 and the time ran out. Don't stretch. I have seen students, they spend 2 hours on question number 1. They spend 2 hours and 15 minutes on question number 1. Useless. You cannot just say, I'll attempt 1 question and pass the AAA paper. Do you believe every question contributes to your success? Every question contributes to your success. Every question contributes to your success. Not one. Don't overrun. Don't overrun in time on 1 question. Start with the strongest question first. Examiner says the students who start with the strongest question first have a better pass rates. If you believe question number 2 is your strongest, start with question 2. If you believe question number 3 is your strongest, start with question number 3. But whichever question you do, you have a stipulated time to complete it. Now, if I make a very blunt formula, right? How much time we have in total in the exam paper? We have 180 minutes plus 15 minutes of the reading and planning time. That's like 195 minutes in total, right? To go about it. Do you agree with 195 minutes? 180 plus 15, 195. Waiting for your answers. Okay. Now 195 is to be divided. 195 multiply by 50, because one of the question is 50, into 100 is equal to how much? Half the time. Half the time from 195 minutes is what? What is exactly half? What is half of 195? Okay, 97.50 minutes. The 97.50 minutes should be spent on what? The question number 1. So the ideal time for question number 1 is 98 minutes. Round it off. 98 minutes. Finish it off. The maximum. Now in the 98 minutes, you are reading. In the 98th minute, you are planning. And in the 98 minutes, you are writing. Because you took the 15 minutes into it. Can you write without reading? Can you write without planning? 98 minutes, you have everything. Now, I have always given this rule of thumb to everyone. So many times in my webinar. I might be repeating it, but I should repeat it because there might be many new students. Out of the 98 minutes, 1/4 is the time you spend on reading and planning, and 3/4 time you spend on writing in the exam. This is an ideal threshold given by ACCA. Then 1/4 time should be spent on planning. I hope over the last 4 days, you have found the importance of reading and planning. You have found how important reading is. It helps you get a better answer. So what is the 1/4 of 98 minutes, which you should spend on reading and planning the first question? 24.5 minutes. Okay, that's good. And how much time to write then? Roughly 73 minutes to write. That's partially over. That's over an hour, right? 73.5 minutes to write. Good. So you have over an hour to write. Over an hour to write a question number 1. That's quite good. If you write concise, if you write a good looking answer rather than you idealize an examiner answer. You idealize an examiner answer, you will take 140 minutes to write the question number 1. So are you getting a track? Now in 98 minutes, whatever good you can do with question number 1, do it. But if you spend 99 minutes on the question number 1, you are spoiling your section B. 98 minutes, as much as possible, whatever you can do in 98 minutes, do it. If you spend the 99th minute, if you spend the 100th minute, you're compromising your question number 2 and question number 3. And please be assured that only the question number 1 will not help you pass the AAA paper. Is that clear to all of you? Then you come to the question number 2 and 3. So how much time we have for the question number 2? Half the time gone, 98 minutes. We are left with 98 minutes for the other 2 questions, right? So half the time gone to the question number 1, half the time remaining. So how much time we have for each of the questions? For 2 and 3, 48.5 minutes. Okay, wonderful. 48.5 minutes for the question number 2 and exactly 48.5 minutes for the question number 3. And in this 48.5 minutes, how much time we should allocate to reading and planning and how much time should we spend on writing? Quick answers for that. Okay, 12 minutes to read and how much time to write? 36 minutes. That's a good enough time. 36 minutes. It's to read and plan and it's to write. Same goes with the question number 3. Now, in 48.5 minutes, whatever you can do. But don't take the 49th minute. Don't take the 49th minute. Practice, practice, practice. You have 3 weeks. I believe when you practice for the first time, the question number 1, it might take you 120 minutes. When you practice the question number 1 for the first time, it might take you 125 minutes. Nothing to worry about. This is the first time. Second time, third time, fourth time, gradually your time span will go down. And in an exam, you are in a hurry. So your typing speed is a lot more than the typing speed at home. So the clue is 98 minutes is the maximum time for the question number 1. Whatever you can do in 98 minutes. You cannot take the extra minute on question number 1. Wherever 98 minutes end, put a full stop, write in the bracket, time ends here, close the bracket, get to the next question, question number 2. In 48.5 minutes, complete the question number 2. Wherever you end, put time ends here, get to the next page and start the question number 3. In this way, at least you have a better assurance of taking 50 marks. Because in every question, you have a pocket of opportunity. Do you agree with me? In every question, you have a pocket of opportunity. In every question, you have an opportunity to score. In every question, there might be a part A, there might be a part B, there might be a part C on which you are good at. But if you spend 130 minutes on question number 1, imagine what will happen to the question number 2 and 3. What will happen to the question number 2 and 3? You will spoil it, right? So if you want to pass the AAA paper, see, you cannot complete 100 marks. Keep that in mind. But aim for 90, and 90 plus, aim for 90 plus. But don't overrun. Don't overrun. Is that clear with time management to everyone? So time management is important, and time management is one of an important area, which is something where you should be focused at. Okay, now moving towards the few of the last things now. Now, when you sit down to prepare for your March exams, which is important, March 2021 exams, first of all, you should ensure that your focus is on 6 recent papers, which I've been guiding you every day. 6 recent papers. Your focus has to be on 6 recent papers for the topic of risk, for the topics of ethical, professional, and quality control issues, for the topic of evidence, for the topic of procedures, for the topic of reporting. Focus on 6 recent papers for these topics. Now, when you look at the other papers, like other assignments, for other assignments, you need to focus on the 6 recent ones. But in 6 recent one, you will find very less paper for other assignments. So you need to go to the old papers recommended during webinar. Recommended during webinar. I hope you have taken the notes of that. So for other assignments, the 6 recent one, but you will get very few of them where other assignment have come. So old papers recommended during webinar would be good. Now, for the knowledge areas, I've already given you the clue. For the knowledge areas, you need to go down from 2014 to 2020, and you will find lots of knowledge areas which can really be helpful to you when you're preparing for exams. So first, the focus areas, then the other assignments, and then the knowledge areas. That's how you go down splitting your past papers, and you go and make a good start to your preparation for AAA. The next thing, after the past papers is the articles. Over the last few days, I've recommended the reinforcements of articles. Read articles. The 5 technique articles are must. The 5 technique articles are must. And then the list of knowledge articles given to you. List of knowledge articles given on day 5. Okay, out of the articles. Examiner reports. I would prefer that all of you, EPQ Rabia Ali is ethical, professional, and quality control issues. We did that on day 2. Examiner reports, read them. How many examiner reports to read? The latest 6. The latest 6. Read them. If you read the latest 6 examiner reports, believe me, you will find so much constructive criticism which will really help you improve your quality of answer on the 1st of March when you have your exam paper. You will get so much constructive criticism from this, which will help you improve the quality of answer. And I hope you remember the self-appraisal technique I've given you in the webinar. Self-appraisal technique, you will stick to that, everyone. So this is just like a summary of things we've gone over the last 4 days. The reinforcement of reading examiner reports, the reinforcement of reading articles, the reinforcement of the self-appraisal techniques. Now, you have, I think you have like 3 weeks before exams, everyone. And in this 3 weeks, you need to formulate a strategy. You need to formulate a strategy based upon where you are today. Now, every one of you has to ask a question to yourself. Today is the 6th of Feb, right? 6th of Feb, 2021. Where are you today in terms of your preparation for AAA? This is an answer which only you can give. Now, wherever you are today, when is your exams? 1st of March. Is that right? 1st of March 2021 is your exam day, right? And you have to, your goal is success. Everyone's goal is success, right? But are you planning success carefully? Are you doing something for success carefully? Today is the 6th of February. On the 1st of March, you have your exams where your goal is success. Are you doing something brilliant for it? Are you doing something for it? Now, in between 6th and the 1st of March, you have to do lots of things. Now, for some student, they might have studied a lot and they say, okay, we are very secured. And for some students, they might start to study from today. There might be many students in the webinar today who might start to study from today. Shocking. There might be some students who might have done 50% of the P7 or 40 to 50% of the P7 by now. You're very good. You're in an ideal position, right? And exactly, some of you have jobs. Some of you have other papers in March along with AAA that increase the burden, that increase the pressure. So you need to make a realistic plan that how would you go about from today to your exam day. You need to make your self appraisal very carefully. How would you go about? Have you read articles? Have you not? Have you done past papers? Have you not? Have you read examiner reports? Have you not? You need to find the gaps. You need to find the gap. What is the gap? Every student will have a different gap. Agree, disagree. And you need to fill the gap as soon as possible. Because if you fill the gap, then only you will come to success, otherwise not. Now, ask a question to yourself. Have you read reports? Ask a question to yourself. Have you done the knowledge areas? Whichever area you have done, that's wonderful. And whichever area you have not done, start doing it in the time you have. Now, the focal point to me in the time we have, right, is the focal time. What you can do is, I think you should make a habit. Exactly, I will agree. Complete the recent 6 papers first. Make a timetable. In the next 4 days, in the next 5 days, make a timetable. But you should complete the recent 6 papers first. That means secure areas of risk, secure areas of evidence, secure areas of ethical, professional, and quality control issue, secure area of reporting, and secure area of procedures. Do it first. By when? You need to decide that. So will you make a timetable of completing the first 6 recent papers? Now, after you have secured the main areas, then make a timetable of completing the other assignments. By when will you complete them? By when will you complete them? But I think second, this should be the second task. Then the third should be, the knowledge areas. The knowledge area should come third. You should make a timetable. When? 1 week before exams, 6 days before exams, at least knowledge areas should start. So try to complete the task number 1 first, then the task number 2, then the task number 3. I think this is a better order. This is a better order as per me. You can have a different order based upon your own self-analysis where you are. Now, I think this is a high time that you spend time on articles, not book. When you're making a timetable, this is not a time for book reading, right? This is not a time for book reading. This is only time for articles. If you spend time on book, you're lost. You're lost. No book in the 3 weeks remaining. Articles, practice. Articles, practice. Article, practice. That's the only way you can. That's the only thing you can do in the time you are left with. If you go reading with books, believe me, you will be lost somewhere, and you will not be passing the AAA paper then. Articles, not book. Make a timetable. So, will you make a daily timetable? 6th of Feb, 7th of Feb, 8th of Feb, 9th of Feb, 10th of Feb. Will you make a timetable? Will you stick to that timetable? Do all of you know your limitations? Whether you go for job or you don't go for job, or whether you have one paper or you have two papers. Everyone knows his or her limitations. And knowing your limitations, you can make a better timetable. But as a tutor, I need to give you a holistic timetable. That first do this, second do this, third do this, read articles, not book. I can only give you a holistic timetable. But I hope this holistic timetable will help you out in context. Is that important? So will you make a strategy towards exam in an effective manner? So prepare yourself topic by topic. Prepare yourself topic by topic. I think that's a better approach. Go topic by topic. Complete topics by topics. Risk done, evidence done, EBQ done, reporting done, procedures done. Okay, start with other assignments. Start with knowledge areas. I think knowledge areas, even if you start knowledge areas, I think 7 days before exams, max, you can start the knowledge areas. But 7 days before exam, complete other assignments. 7 days before exam, complete risk, evidence, EPQ, reporting, and procedures. Right? I'll recommend some of my webinars to watch on procedures and evidence over the WhatsApp group. Right? I cannot just remember them randomly, but I'll recommend them on the WhatsApp group. So just wait for that. Right? So is that timetable strategy clear to all of you? Will this timetable strategy be executed in the next 24 hours? Will the timetable strategy be executed in the next 24 hours? Will you make a timetable, everyone? So I hope such techniques will help you out. Such techniques will help you devise a better approach towards attempting the AAA paper, right? I hope that is important, right? I hope that's important. Okay, the final thing before I end the webinar. Now, you know what to do, you know how to do, you need to make a self timetable for yourself, right? See, every time, whenever the exams are near, the students start asking the tutor, what are important areas for March 21? I think this is an illogical question because a AAA paper has, the AAA paper is a very organized paper, right? The AAA paper is a very structured paper. You exactly know what comes in question 1, you exactly know what comes in the section B, so you can plan yourself right. Now, ideally, if you look at the AAA March 21 paper, I'm not making the paper, right? I am just idealizing it. Question number 1, question number 2, question number 3. Now we know, even before entering the exam hall, that the question number 1 is a question set at the planning stage. I hope you all agree with me. The question number 2 is an open question now. The format, there has been a vice versa element. And now the question number 3 has become a completion and a reporting question since the last 2 exam settings. Completion and reporting question. Okay, now when you look at this and you look at the planning stage, at the planning stage, I need to be good on risk. I need to be good on procedures. I need to be good on ethical and professional issues. Quality control issues don't come at the planning stage, right? ethical and professional issues. I need to be good on areas of practice management, because a lot of time in the recent papers, we have seen practice management coming in the planning stage question. That is matters to consider when accepting a new audit client, have come more rigorously in the recent papers in question number 1. Okay, and a lot of time the knowledge stuff comes in the first question. I think last time or before that we saw a joint audit coming in the first question for 5 to 6 marks. So this is how the formation of the question one looks like. You look at the open question. Yes, in the open question anything can come. In the open question you can get other assignments. In the open question you can get something from, again you can get ethical, professional, and the quality control issues in the open question, or anything else like money laundering can come into the open question, or anything like uh, auditor liability. Yes, anything like fraud, something like that can come in the open question. But in the completion and a reporting question, either obviously you will get a question on audit report, which is must for less or more marks. But in a last question also, completion and reporting, you might get evidence, because evidence is a completion activity, evidence in working paper file, which has been a regular feature uh, at the completion stage. Even at the completion stage, you might get professional and quality control issues. Professional and quality control issues also come at the stage of completion, so you cannot just rule them out. Other assignments, right? Other assignments. Social and environmental audit is other assignments, right? Audit of performance information, basically social and environmental audit. KPIs is basically the audit of performance information, which we have covered today, right? So you're using different jargons for something which is defined in the syllabus as audit of performance information. Okay, so question number 1. Is that structured question number 1? Mostly we get things like this in question number 1. Mostly is this the way we get the question number 2? Mostly is this the way we get question number 3? Now, you know the strong areas of which are must. Risk and procedures are must in the question number 1. Rest, we don't know. In question number 2, other assignments is the more regular feature. Rest, we don't know. In question number 3, audit report is a very common phenomena, and evidence is a very common phenomena. Rest, we don't know. What can come, what cannot come. So you should plan the control of the topics. Now, I'm not giving you the important topics. I'm giving you the structure of the question number 1. I'm giving you the structure of the question number 2. I'm giving you the structure of the question number 3, which will be beneficial to you to prepare for topics. Can you make a checklist at home like this? Okay, have I done risk? Tick. Have I done procedures? Tick. Have I done ethical and professional issues? Tick. Have I done practice management? No, I still have to do it. Have I done the knowledge stuff? No, I still have to do it. Okay. Other assignments? Have I done it? Okay, yes. Money laundering? No, I still have to do it. Can you make a self appraisal in next few hours of this question 1, 2, and 3? Where are you standing? Where you need to focus on? Will this help you? Will this help you, everyone? Will this help you find your missing areas where you need to focus on in the next few days? So how much confidence you have on question 1 as of today? As of today, how much confidence you have on question 2? How much confidence you have as of today on the question 3? If you do this analysis, it will give you a very good timetable setting strategy. You can set a very good timetable for you after you do your analysis where you stand in terms of the 3 questions. Now, over the next few days, I'll be very active on my Facebook page, which is my AAA by Kashif Kamran Facebook page. I'll be posting some very important information for March 21 exams, some valuable tips and techniques, because these tips and techniques keep popping in my mind, and I need to put them on the social media for the benefit of many. So if you are on the Facebook and you are part of Facebook, so please do visit my page on a regular basis so that you can get the tips and techniques. I'll be posting a lot of videos on exam preparation for AAA, I think over the next 1 week on my YouTube channel as well. So I prefer that you are part and parcel of that as well. It might give you some wonderful discussions. My previous webinars, I hope you watch them. The December webinar 2020, the March webinar 2020, and December 19 webinar. Minimum, along with March 21 webinar. This will give you a wonderful source of preparation towards your exams coming up in March 21. So as a tutor, I can only pray for your success, right? And honestly, I want that you all find the right strategy to pass. I'm really worried when I see a student failing in a AAA paper. And I have amazing stories to share with you. I've seen students failing for last 10 consecutive exam sittings. Imagine. When will you find the right strategy? When will you find the right strategy? Someday you have to. So perhaps this webinar might give you the right strategy. It's not me, it's you. You need to find the right strategy. You need to find the right mechanism. Even after the webinar, I see students who are lost, who are confused, what to do, how to do. They are spending time on useless things. They don't know what to read, how to read, where to read. They're scattered. You don't spend time on the AAA website, which is the page of ACCA, a AAA page. You spend time on running after notes, running after shortcuts, running after materials on the WhatsApp groups. No, you need to find a serious strategy. I have seen so many times the flood of messages on the WhatsApp group sharing stuff of institutes, other teachers, notes, summaries that confuse the other students. You need to have your own resources, and you need to ensure that your resources are fitting the definition provided by the tutor in the webinar. But I've seen so many times the student keeps sharing the PDF versions of notes and summaries, whatever resources. And is that not distraction, honestly? Is that not distraction, honestly? It is. So you need to find a clue of your own preparation, and you need to spend very less time on the social media in the next 3 weeks. The less time you spend on smartphone, the less time you spend on the social media, the less time you spend on any extra activity you do is better for you. Spend more time on AAA. Control, give better time to AAA. You might waste 3 hours on Facebook, 3 hours on WhatsApp, looking at the group messages. Okay, what is the group message today on the P2P group? Okay, what is coming on the P2P group? No, study. That has to be a focal point. So I've seen so many times. I believe when I look at the P2P groups, I believe you are all there you're all there 24/7. You should be there on the past papers. You should be there on the book. You should be there on the articles. Critical times for every one of you. So I hope these webinars have helped you over the last 5 days, including the day today, the 15 hours. I hope these 15 hours has given you some ray of hope, some approach, some mindset, some mechanism, some methodology, whatever you want to refer them. So you need to continue. And please find the right way to pass it. AAA is not difficult. It's such an organized paper. It's such a structured paper. It's such a disciplined paper. You know what comes in question 1. You know what comes in 2. You know what comes in 3. Wonderful examiner articles, wonderful technique articles. You have proper supports of examiner. You have examiner reports. You have everything. But problem is that you're not prepared to study the right material. You are prepared to study the miscellaneous material which is flooded over the WhatsApp group. You're not prepared to study the authentic material which is coming from the website of ACCA. So I hope this discussion which I had with you in the last 40-45 minutes must have helped you. I might have been harsh, I might have been loud, but I believe my purpose was to help you. My purpose is to help you. My purpose is for you to get to a right strategy in the next 3 weeks ahead. So I hope this has been motivational for all of you. I hope this is an inspirational discussion in the last 45 minutes for all of you to find clues and things. If you keep doing mistakes, I cannot help you out then. Every time you do silly mistakes and you fail, it's time you find the right strategy, right? So honestly, it's been like 11 webinars I've been conducting for AAA. And in every webinar, I get amazing bunch of students. And in every webinar, I get amazing bunch of students who are so inspirational. But uh, you need to find the right strategy. I've done, I've in 11 webinars, perhaps I think I've taught the entire AAA paper. 11 webinars from March 2018 to March 2021. It's been a 2 years journey. And in this 2 years journey, perhaps I think I've discussed every important aspect of AAA. Honestly, there is nothing much left, but it's for you to find the right breakthrough now. So all of you in my live webinar today and who have participated enthusiastically over the last 5 days, I wish you all success. I wish you all success in the March 2021 exams. I'm still there with you on the WhatsApp group. If whenever I get time, I can drop some messages on the WhatsApp group. I can drop some interesting things on the WhatsApp group, but not flooding them. You must have seen that I normally post very few messages on the WhatsApp group, just one time a day, and you keep posting messages 24/7, right? So please, all of you, make a study plan in the next 24 hours. Make a study plan in the next 24 hours, and every student's study plan will be different, and your study plan is the best for you, right? So make a study plan, sit down and start studying, and avoid distractions. Whatever distraction is in the environment around you, avoid it. So find the distractions in the next 24 hours. What distracts you? What distracts you? Avoid that for the next 3 weeks and focus on your studies. Focused on your studies. So I hope all of you had a productive 15 hours of this webinar, right? Uh, that's interesting, Asad. Examiner answer is a big distraction for me, so just sideline it. Who says studies the examiner answer? I think you idealize it. You idealize it, and that's the way. I think the examiner answer is the most important document for student, right? So avoid it. Okay, if you can just quickly drop your feedbacks for the overall 15 hours of the webinar, I would be really happy to see that because I'm just into the wrapping up phase now of this webinar, which was stretched over the last 15 days. I also believe that the COVID has impacted the last 1 year of students' journey in ACCA. A lot of time the exams were called off. A lot of time the exams were shifted from paper to computer based. But I think in all that context, there have been success stories. There have been students who have given paper and passed papers. So you need to find the best strategy for the 2021 exams. This is the very first exam sitting for 2021, and you need to get a breakthrough in this, right? So thank you very much for your feedback. It's been wonderful interacting with all of you over the last over the last 5 days. Wonderful. I almost remember names of few students who have been a very regular part of my sessions, my live sessions, and that's wonderful that I can remember your names and for future as well. Okay. Okay, then that is it, right? Have a nice day, all of you ahead. Study effectively, keep yourself protected, and ensure that you are in a safe environment, because with COVID everywhere, you need to keep yourself secured, safe, so that you progress well towards your exams as well. Keep yourself healthy, keep yourself energetic, and keep yourself on the right track for success in the AAA paper, right? If you had any questions and I failed to answer it, it's just because of the load of messages which I can see on my screen. Please do drop it on the WhatsApp group so I can respond it in a timely manner, right? So thank you very much. Once again, wish you success and hope to see you with very good results when the results are announced. I'll be looking forward to your success stories on the day when the results are announced, right? Okay, have a nice day, all of you. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay blessed, be happy, be optimistic, and study in the right manner, in the right direction. It is Kashif Kamran, your tutor, signing off from the AAA Practice to Pass webinar for March 2021 exams being organized by ACCA Pakistan. Goodbye and Allah Hafiz, all of you.